because I trust my intuition. I trust my ability to make judgments based on small sets of data and even anecdotal data. Okay. But that's not scientific. And so I think I have to weigh the evidence side more, because I just keep getting proven wrong that my intuition feels right a lot of the time, but it's not right in the general sense. So.
What was your first name, if you don't mind? Joe.
This is broccoli.
Joe and broccoli?
Yeah. Broccoli hasn't taken philosophy in a while.
That's okay.
So
I did take one philosophy class before.
Okay.
So, yeah, and this is just, I talk to people about anything, so it can be whatever topic is on your mind. What I'm hoping to do is take two ideas or claims that you might have and look at how you know they are true.
Ooh, that's tough for me.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I was a philosophy major, and like making a claim, I like try to be very Socratic about things, and make my claims are always, it seems like this, the evidence points to this. So I know I think like big picture stuff that I think about is how to build a good society. And so I think about like natural rights that we should have as humans, and I would include things like food, access to water, shelter, healthcare. So those kinds of things I claim as human rights maybe, and then they are in conflict with a lot of the way that we've developed policy in the U.S.
Okay. Yeah, so there's a lot of human rights that you believe we should have, and you feel like the policies that we're making are not in line with those values.
Yeah. I mean, philosophically, I feel like people should be able to, like, the worst case scenario in society is somebody is lazy and doesn't have to suffer. Right. And the worst case scenario in this is that people are putting effort out and still suffering because the system makes it very difficult to change your social status. Right.
I see. So yeah, you could have the worst case scenario is not that bad to have some people being provided for, but there's some unfairness to the system or something like that.
And therein is a claim too, like on the I guess what I would say the other side of me is that, well, if we give people stuff, then that'll breed laziness.
Right.
And I oppose that claim. I think it's the opposite will happen. When you make life easier, people are more motivated to follow their creative drives.
Cool. So that's a really interesting one. So let me just start with that idea of that when could I rephrase it to say, like, when people are provided for, they
when basic needs are met, they naturally will pursue ways of either contributing to society, as we like to say, or just some sort of productive ventures.
Okay. They're productive. That's reasonable. And let's go with another claim or idea or belief or anything like that, just so we have two to kind of look at.
Like non-related to this?
Yeah, totally unrelated. It could be something that you engage in every day or that you change your behavior because of. Could be strong opinions about the geese. I don't know.
I mean, the strongest opinion, I guess, would be my atheism. I believe that there is no God. But in the sense of, like, our ability to formulate some entity. But that's always, like, I don't know, it feels classic.
That's a fine one to do. So
tried and true.
You believe there is no God? Is that right?
Yeah.
Is that okay? Awesome. All right.
We can get semantically into it, and I would have to back off if you start to say that God is like some fifth dimension energy we can't really describe yet. I believe that there is no non-scientific description of, like, the origins of the universe. Maybe that's a better way to put it.
Okay. So believe that there's. Let me see. Believe there's no.
I would say positively. I believe there is a scientific explanation to the future, even if we can't grasp it with our limited ability to comprehend.
Yeah, a scientific. You talked about an origin to the universe.
Explanation of the origin. Yeah.
Cool. Let's look at those two.
Okay.
And I'll try and keep it to like 10 minutes or something.
Sure.
Keep it brief. And And if you want to go longer than that, we can do that. But
okay.
So
let's see how he does.
So yeah, broccoli,
okay.
you good? Hi, baby. You are sweet. So, when the idea that when needs are met leads to productivity, where did that idea come from for you? Where do you think you got that belief?
It's a combination. I think I get evidence from myself. I know when I was a substitute teacher for several years, I was vying for a full-time position, but the system was that, I get beaten by seniority for full-time jobs. Right. So each fall I'd have job insecurity and I'd be stressed out, and I would wait for a call every morning to know whether or not I was working. And if I wasn't working, I wouldn't get paid. Yeah. And I didn't make terrible money, but not having security was really tough for me. And in my free time, I basically was depressed. I was like going home after school and like playing video games or just like, vegging out and watching TV all night. And then I got a full-time job in another industry. It was a very nice opportunity that came up. And all of a sudden pressure was relieved and I started taking care of my lawn. I started volunteering more. I got back into working for this nonprofit that a local ultimate frisbee organization. Actually, I volunteered to be on the board. So all of a sudden I had this other energy that personally I was able to give out because I had some security there. It just like took a lot of weight off. So I combined that with evidence from programs. Like recently there was a program in California where they just gave families at the very low income level $300 a week. Yeah. And we witnessed that for over, I forget how long it was, 6 weeks or 3 months or so. And the majority paid off their bills and got jobs. Right. And like that evidence really points to the fact that we have, and I think just like naturally, we have a curiosity. We don't want to veg out and be bored. We do that because we're stressed out constantly, and financial security is a big source of stress. Yeah. And so that's one of the many basic needs that we would want. I mean, I think rent security, housing security is another big one. But I feel it personally on an anecdotal level, and I think there's evidence on a trials level as well.
Got it. So there's been some of these experiments, like the one out in California, and then coupled with your personal experience of your own hardships.
Right. The anecdotal evidence.
Sure. Yeah. And that kind of builds up that idea. And how confident are you on that belief, would you say? On a scale of, like, we'll say 0 to 100.
Yeah, it's really hard to quantify. I mean, I think it's generally in a high range, let's say 70 to 85% high-ish. Gotcha. Yeah, I think there's wiggle room. I think the structure of society impacts it a lot. Right. It's very difficult to overcome. Like, people could have other contextual factors that play into it that make it difficult for this trial to work, like childhood trauma or relationship issues. But they could all go into the category of ways to make life easier. So if we could resolve those traumas, relationship issues, whatever other pre-existing conditions, if we want to call them that, then I think, we still naturally move toward generally a will to do more, to be more productive.
Got it.
And then people also fall on a spectrum of how much more willing are they. Right. Some people are really motivated, and some people just want to get by. Yeah. So that's why I say a range.
I gotcha. And so what prevents you from being higher on that confidence scale?
I'm extremely skeptical of certainty. So like anywhere near 100%, it has to basically be testable, repeatable, right. In a lab kind of setting, and then also out there. And there's way too many factors for me to be confident I know them all.
Okay. Yeah, I would think with social stuff especially, people are complicated.
Repeatability problems too.
Right.
Yeah.
And so the main two reasons you have a personal experience and these studies that you've read about, how would you rate them between the two reasons? Would you weight them kind of equally, or would you put one higher than the other?
Naturally, I want to rate them more equally than I think I ought to, because I trust my intuition. I trust my ability to make judgments based on small sets of data and even anecdotal data. Okay. But that's not scientific. And so I think I have to weigh the evidence side more, because I just keep getting proven wrong that my intuition feels right a lot of the time, but it's not right in the general sense. So definitely more weight on anything that's closer to like, more robust kind of study.
Gotcha.
Trials followed by some sort of meta-analysis and systematic review,
cool.
that kind of thing. Yeah.
Awesome. And then turning to the second claim, belief that there's a scientific explanation for like the universe, and I guess we could say like nothing supernatural.
Yeah.
Some similar.
Right.
How confident are you on that on a scale of 0 to 100?
Close to 100.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Like really close to 100. And that's only because there has only ever been evidence of causality. And as soon as you interrupt causality with something outside of it, science goes through these revolutions of being able to explain a certain amount of the world, and then it has more data, and that does not reconcile itself with the current explanations, and therefore science has to change its theories or change its explanations. And that doesn't mean that what we know right now we know for sure because of how we understand science. It just means that the scientific process will continue to evolve and expand until it can accommodate more and more. But as soon as you interrupt that process with something that's not causal, if it were truly outside of it, then the entire scientific thought process would collapse.
I see. So from like a reasoning standpoint, it seems like anything outside of science would be non-causal. Am I understanding?
Yeah, anything. Yeah, and I would say it the other way, but it probably works both ways. Yeah, anything that does not have any causality attached to it is non-scientific. And once you introduce that at any point in time, then causality starts to fail all over the place. Because causality relies on it being like a universal rule.
When you say it starts to fail, what do you mean by it starts to fail?
You start to find ways to explain phenomena that are not consistent, that are not repeatable, because one explanation means that there was this divine intervention, and then therefore these events followed that.
Right.
But if that only exists in certain times and not other times, the consistency starts to fail. And I think there's evidence that we are consistently explaining more and more with science.
Okay.
So the evidence that we witness is all within this realm of scientific, and we don't have any evidence coming in from without.
Right.
So the only way we jump to that point is through, people call it faith or whatever, but they bring it in from the outside as an explainer, as with explanatory power that has no ability to be tested or to be falsified.
So that lack of evidence for something outside of a scientific explanation, coupled with the reason of that causality reasoning. So it sounds like you're primarily using a reason argument. Is that your main reason, so to speak? Is the logic associated with it?
Yeah, it's that all of our explanations come from gathering evidence. And in order to suppose this more supernatural causer, then you have to create it without evidence of it. You have to basically have no other option in the realm of like the testable, falsifiable, scientific theory style explanation, and then go to the God explanation.
Right.
And that's not rigorous. That's not, it's not reasonable, and it leads to all sorts of problems down the road of like when we're using science and we see, the results of science. We have a vaccine because of science.
Gotcha. So seeing the effectiveness of science and the just unreasonableness of going outside of science, that's what got you to this close to 100% confidence of that there will only be scientific explanations.
Yeah, I think we like to. I think we get very uncomfortable when we are in a place of uncertainty, and I think that science is certainly not at a place where we can claim certainty on everything, but the amount that we don't know continues to decrease.
Right.
And so maybe we'll hit a limit of what we can tell based on our human consciousness. We have theories about dark matter, about light, and all sorts of things that we can't comprehend, really wrap our heads around. I mean, some people can maybe, but the way that the universe really works underneath it all could have explanations that we physically can't grasp because of our limitations by being humans.
Is that what prevents you from being 100%? Is those gaps in our knowledge, or?
I guess the only explanation is that that we're in some sort of lab, and like some creator that has an intelligence much higher than us created the whole thing, but then that thing, whatever the creator is, has to have causality within its own world, so what created it, and like the circularness of that goes back there. And again, like, it's not 100% because I just have to doubt.
Right.
I have to doubt certainty.
Yeah.
So.
Cool. I appreciate being willing to always be wrong. I think that's a good point to stop.
Okay.
I don't want to keep your time
Sure.
anymore. So thanks so much.
All right.